Basics of Citing MLA Tutorial 3. In the previous videos in the series, you learned why it's important to cite your sources and about the basics of formatting a works cited page. This video will focus on creating the in-text components of your citation, which appear within the narrative of your paper. You may recall that the in-text citation is where you pause in your writing to acknowledge the source of the idea or quote you just referred to in your work. Why are these in-text citations needed when you've already included a works cited page? It's done for sake of clarity and to avoid making someone else's words or ideas appear as if they are your own, which is plagiarism. It works with the works cited page by using the first word or words of the entry as it's written in the works cited page, which is usually the author's last name. It also shows your reader which specific parts of that source informed your own work by giving the page number where they can find the idea or quote you referenced. It's a huge help to your reader, and it makes you, the writer, look more credible. Now let's see how to create the in-text citation in MLA by looking at different examples. The most basic version of an in-text citation places the author's last name and page number with no comma in between at the end of the sentence containing the idea or quote you referenced. You do this because you want to be clear about where the borrowed information came from, but you don't want to interrupt the sentence with a citation. Remember, one of the reasons we include in-text citations is for sake of clarity. If it's more clear to include the citation in the middle of a sentence, put it where there's a natural pause, such as before a comma. Notice that the order will always go ending quotation mark if it's a direct quote, parenthetical citation, period. The period or any other punctuation always comes after the closing parentheses. Another common version of the in-text citation has the author's name worked into the narrative of your writing in a signal phrase that introduces the borrowed quote or idea to your reader. The page number, if there is one, then later appears in parentheses. Note that the author's name is incorporated in the signal phrase. It is not repeated in the parenthetical citation. This method allows you to incorporate the outside source more seamlessly while still being very clear which information is from the source and which is your idea. Again, the punctuation for the end of the sentence is placed after the closing parentheses. Questions often arise at this point. What if my source doesn't have an author listed? Or what if there's more than one author? And what if my source doesn't have any page numbers? We'll look at the author issue first. Remember that the in-text citation points your reader to the corresponding entry in your works cited page. So even if your source doesn't have an author, you will still go to the works cited entry and use the first words of the complete citation for the in-text citation, which, if there's no author given, will be the title. Use your best judgment on how much of the title is needed to make it clear to your reader which entry you are referencing. If the source you reference has 2 or 3 authors, include every author's last name. List them in the same order as you did in your works cited entry, but use only their last names. If the source has more than 3 authors, again list them as you did in the works cited entry, which in this case should be the first author followed by the phrase "et al." It will look like this. And what about page numbers? Sometimes you'll run across sources, especially those from a website, that doesn't have page numbers. If the paragraphs are numbered or if the sections are numbered, use those instead. But if no such markers are available, simply leave them off. So if you find no page numbers, your in-text citation may look like the first example or may consist only of a reference in the signal phrase with no parenthetical citation. A final tip: create a Word document where you can copy and paste all the citations you may use in your project. Another good habit to adopt is to make note of the source and page number of every quote and idea that you use. You will save yourself time and energy. This ends the third tutorial in the series on MLA. Remember, if you have any questions on citing or formatting, you can always ask the friendly staff at the MCC library.